Hello, I'm Jenna Kantor, and welcome to Physiotherapy Performance Perspectives, a physical therapy podcast for performing artists. Today, I am interviewing Buffy Stinchfield, who is joining us from Vancouver, Washington. Hello.
Hello.
This is very exciting. Buffy Stinchfield began her study of human movement as a child in ballet class. A love for dance, appreciation for the human body, and desire to help others led to earning her master's degree in physical therapy in 2006. Buffy has a strong orthopedic background of over 11 years and has an expertise in working with and treating dancer athletes. As an old dancer and dance teacher, she is particularly knowledgeable and skilled in identifying technique issues that may lead to injury, as well as rehabbing the dance athlete. Dancers traditionally have poor access to healthcare providers who are knowledgeable about their sport, and she continues to advocate for them. I love the word advocate. I think that is amazing how you are truly involved in improving the health lifestyle for dancers. So it is great to have you on here, Buffy.
Good, thank you. It is a goal.
It's a good goal. So Buffy is joining us today to specifically discuss transitioning to pointe shoes. The first question, in general, do most ballet programs know how to properly transition dancers to pointe shoes, and why?
I cannot speak for all programs, but I think they really try to transition the students the best that they know how. I would like dancers to be doing more work outside of class to help their bodies accommodate and be better prepared for the demands on their bodies. It's such a big step, and it's usually at a developmental stage where their bodies are definitely growing, sometimes in the middle of a growth spurt at around 12, 13 years old. So they usually need a lot of catch up. So I think that the issue is more of culture than, I'm not putting it on the teachers as much, but it's
absolutely not. Everybody really does have the best interest in mind for the dancers.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I don't, they all have their philosophies and theories, but yet we still keep getting those young dancers getting injured in that transition 6 months to a year.
Yeah. Hopefully this will help people get on the same page a little bit more.
Yes.
To the next question. So what do you think would be the best age and physical maturity for dancers to transition to pointe shoes, and why?
Okay. So 12 years old seems to be the really popular age that's just like out there. But I would look more at strength and stability than age, because every kiddo grows at a different rate. Some are, they've grown in height around age 12, but they are really far behind in muscle strength. They might not be ready to handle that transition. So that's where we have to look at things like stability in releve, stability holding a passe, how strong are they? I would use those markers more than age for sure.
I think that's fantastic. And when you're saying this, the first thing that pops in my mind are the parents too, because parents, as well as the children, are this black and white of choosing an age pretty much just helps everyone go, okay, my child will for sure advance at 12. But then it can be difficult for people to accept what you're saying. I could totally imagine, because they start comparing. Think, oh, well, my daughter, and this person's more advanced. And I get it. I totally get it. I mean, from a parent's perspective, like, your child is everything, and that's wonderful. But it's hopefully will become a more respected and believed in concept of strength, because it's overall it's going to protect their body. So
yes,
I like bringing that up.
Yeah. And hey, parents, pointe shoes are really expensive. How excited are you to jump into that?
It's a good thing.
When I was doing pointe, it was still very costly for a pair of pointe shoes, but now it's like $80 a pair is what the girls are telling me. And they're going through one pair every sometimes 5-6 weeks.
Oh yeah, depending on their foot strength.
Yeah.
How How advanced does a dancer's technique need to be to transition to pointe shoes?
This is my thought. She should be to a point where she really knows where her body is in space, and she needs to be getting less and less corrections for positioning and alignment from her teacher. Simple technique, understanding to where it's more muscle memory. She should also have a look of relative stability while dancing on soft ballet shoes, which is indicative of strength from her core, hips, and lower legs. Teachers can spot that. They can see a dancer when they look stable. That's really more what you need to be looking at. They can't be at a level where they're working on, technique as much.
Right. I like that too, because what you were just saying here, from how I'm taking it into even a bigger picture, is you're putting a lot of power into the dance teacher to objectively decide for that dancer if they are healthfully ready to advance. I think that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Oh, I think there's some, really good basic strength tests that anyone could administer if they know what they're looking at.
Oh, yes, this is perfect segue, because the next question I want to ask you, is there a screening process a dancer could use to assess if she is ready to go on pointe?
There is some research where they're trying to objectify standardized research or testing methods to determine if a girl is ready to go on pointe, but it's really lacking. As a physical therapist, however, we've got the skills to assess someone, black and white. Are they strong enough? Do they have strength? And we can use some of our tests and help out those studios and dance teachers. So one of my favorites is everyone focuses on ankle strength. Of course, does she have enough point in her foot? Can she go on releve? Does she look sturdy? The standard test for calf strength for regular humans, not athletes, is about 21 leg heel raises. For a dancer, they should be able to do at least 40 before they fatigue, really double. But then, we have to look beyond the ankle, because if they have a weak core and hip muscle system, they're not going to be able to balance. That ankle strength won't hold them up. So a standardized test of doing a one leg step down from a standard stair or 6-inch step. Can they control that knee? Does the knee fall or collapse in? And when I've tested and screened dance studios, I've been really surprised in this age group, this 12, 13, 14 age group, at how weak their hips often are. It's incredible what they do to compensate for this weakness. So, yeah.
Yeah. So with this hip strength, could you be more specific on what muscles need to be strong to handle the pointe shoes?
Yeah, the glute medius, for sure, the glutes. One of the big imbalances that can easily happen in the ballet dance form is getting really specific with a certain type of movement. And that usually, if you look at a plie, the bum is tucked, the tummy is pulled in, and this often can inhibit the glutes. And so I also specialize in pelvic health, because there is a carryover into poor pelvic health.
Oh, yeah.
So, we need to get these dancers to be better chameleons of movement, because really in the end, that's what they should be. They should be able to do what looks like a traditional squat and recruit their glute muscles well as go into a grand plie with their hips right underneath them. But they need to be able to do a squat with their hips back behind them well and control their knee. Yeah,
you started to allude this already, but what are common muscle weaknesses or imbalances that may delay a dancer from going on to pointe?
It would be those glutes.
Yeah.
It is really just an epidemic for women and girls. That's one of my biggest issues, is that's when that dancer looks unstable on their feet, or they fall out of their turns, or they can't hold an arabesque. is when their proximal stability in that hip girdle area is just not strong enough. Most dancers will know who Baryshnikov was. And, you cannot forget the fact that he had really defined glute muscles. And yes, girls, we don't want those. and we won't develop muscles like that. But that man stayed in his pirouettes for how many pirouettes could he do in a row? 10? And then he would just stay there.
Yeah, because he knew
he would stay there. He would get stuck in releve, in passe.
Yeah.
And that is, he was strong, and that's what made him exceptional, was that strength.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Yeah. Would you believe I actually played, I want to say half a year ago, a game of charades with friends, and Baryshnikov came up, and they were in a younger generation, and a lot of them didn't know who he was. But they weren't dancers. They weren't dancers.
Okay.
But still, it still took me aback. I couldn't believe it.
Man, is he on YouTube? Maybe people need to download him on YouTube, and then the younger generation will see him.
Exactly. They won't forget. He's phenomenal. So this may be hard for some people to hear, but I think this is a good question to ask. Are there some bodies that are not meant to go on Pointe?
That's a hard question to answer for me, because what I do is I want to enable and empower anybody and everybody to keep doing what they want to do. But when it comes to Pointe, if someone really is just not sturdy, or, they're really lacking a lot of strength, their body's not ready, maybe not a forever thing, but they're really not ready. The only other issue is if someone has really unstable joints. There are some congenital issues where someone has, maybe they're very flexible and they found themselves to fit into the dance world really well because they could, develop really high, they could kick high.
Beautiful. Everyone's looking at their beautiful feet. Oh yeah.
But if they have joints that are just way too hypermobile and their muscles cannot control that could be a problem. That could be a risk. I wouldn't say that's super common, but yeah, that would be a high risk for injury.
Yeah, absolutely. If a dance teacher or a studio director is listening to this podcast, welcome, first of all. And I was wondering, Buffy, for you, what words of advice do you want to give them to help them as they progress their students onto Pointe? Because that's not easy to figure out, a solid answer for each student that comes through.
I would say a dancer's motivation to transition to the Pointe shoe can be totally harnessed, teachers, and get them to put that extra time outside of class to work on whatever they need to improve, their strength, their flexibility. It's also good practice for that student to learn how to take care of their bodies on their own time and not just while in class, because when you go on Pointe, there's a lot of self-care that's needed. You've got to manage your feet. You've got to manage, are your shoes still working for you, or has the shank worn out, or has the toe box worn out? They just need to put a lot of they can't just put something on and go. They're going to have to take care of their body. So use that, teachers, and their motivation to get them to create that habit. And also, maybe you need to establish some concrete markers of strength or flexibility that can be really motivating to your dancers.
That's a great idea.
So, you could say, okay, you need to be able to do between 30 and 40 single leg releves consecutively before fatiguing. Or, your hips, you need to be able to do a one leg step down, and it has to look like a one leg squat, so the butt has to get back there. A one leg squat, and the teacher can look at that and go, okay, is that knee collapsing in after 2 repetitions? We can use markers that we use for runners, for dancers, because they land just like a runner does, and they need to have that hip strength to track the knees well. And teacher, you can confidently say, yeah, you are strong enough if you've got good hip strength and good calf strength. Yeah. So use their motivation to your
advantage.
To your benefit.
I love that, because I remember for me as a dancer, I was given a marker like that. Oh yeah, we would just during lunch breaks at rehearsal, we'd be doing squats, whatever. Be like, oh, I want to get to my point shoes. I think that's
once you get them on point, they might not be as motivated. So it would be just a great transition time to help them establish some habits of putting in some work outside of class. They really should be anyway, because often what is done in class, even if they're at the bar for 45 minutes, that's sometimes still not enough strengthening for their hips. I'm seeing it continuously with dancers that are spending 6 days a week in the studio, yet they still really lack strength.
Yeah. There's a lot of compensations that can happen in the body, other muscles being used, so the hips don't ever need to be used, unfortunately. I really like what you're bringing up. Well, we're at my favorite question to always ask, because this is where people get to know you more on your own experience. Would you mind, Buffy, please tell me your favorite story about treating a dancer?
I don't know if it's so much the actual treating it, but the end result. I'm an old dancer at heart. Maybe I don't dance anymore, but I know that feeling of alive that is the best feeling in the world. And when I get to see someone that was injured, and then I see them perform again on stage, and I see that look in their eyes, and they're just having the time of their life and able to do what they wanted to do with their body, that is my favorite.
Yeah. It is. I get that. I definitely get that. Thank you so much, Buffy. This has been awesome. And thank you to our listeners for joining us on another episode of Physiotherapy Performance Perspectives. Join me on the first Monday of every month to hear the next episode. To hear more episodes, click on the link in the description below to view the website. Like this podcast on Facebook at facebook.com/PT Performance Perspectives to stay informed. And finally, if you want to get in touch, email me at ptperformanceperspectives@gmail.com. Thank you so much. Bye.